we've got a serious problem. I can't find any information about this watch. Well, you know what they say, when in doubt, Google that bit. All right, so I found this article from Gear Patrol. Seiko designed affordable new back-to-school watches for kids, but adults will love them too. But this is definitely not one of those watches. However, there is mention on here of these school-time mechanical watches from Seiko of the 70s. This has to be what they were mentioning, right? After digging page after page, keyword after keyword, still nothing on this school-time watch aside from the reimagined JDM version from 2019. Now regardless, I could still produce a video for all on just the mere looks of this oddly mystical watch from Seiko, but it wouldn't be a Clicky Bezel production without a bit of background on this piece. So with all the hype around this artificial intelligence stuff, why don't we try asking this ChatGPT thing? I mean, I don't think there's any way for this AI to actually get any more information out of this watch. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we are truly living in the future. Simply put, the school timeline of watches from Seiko was a series of watches designed for students and children of the 70s, as a way to teach them how to tell time and live with a watch. Nowadays, there seems to be a trend of watches designed for children like Swatches, Timexes, and Parchi Pals. All these watches have the same thing in common. They are durable, highly legible, and come in all these fun colors. The 70s Seiko school time, however, isn't any of that, aside from being legible. Now, according to ChatGPT and a few listings I've seen on eBay, they come in black, white, and a blue dial color variant like the one I have here, with the option of either stick or numeral hour markers. Now with these watches coming out of the 70s, they were offered with either hand wind or self-winding movements, which is kind of crazy to think about how these mechanical watches were the only options for children. I'm guessing maybe the more traditional movements were more abundant and familiar than the state-of-the-art quartz and electric watches that were coming out at the time. I don't know, the thought of a child handling a mechanical watch is so fascinating to me. I mean, these watches are durable, but in the hands of a certain child, I could see this thing being over-rounded and potentially breaking. And on that thought, I have a feeling a lot of these ended up breaking and just tossed away given the supply of these on the web. I'm guessing it's a generational thing where this was just the way watches were powered versus now where quartz watches and frankly smartwatches dominate the market. I'm not sure if this was the case for all of you, but when I first started getting into watches, the watch world for me was a little bit intimidating. Scouring countless watch forums and Instagram pages, even now there seems to be a lot of negativity and elitism that goes on in there. That is until I discovered WatchCrunch, a platform dedicated just for watches. The community over at WatchCrunch really seems to love all kinds of watches, whether it's your first ever watch you picked up for $20 or a grail piece you hope to work towards one day. And this is all wrapped up in their super sleek interface that is super engaging and pretty addicting to use. The team over at WatchCrunch always seems to be tweaking their app, and they're doing a great job adding new features to keep all of us engaged. Now this is an app I really wish came out when I was starting my watch journey, so if you've never heard of WatchCrunch, come and join the community. And while you're at it, come and follow me on WatchCrunch as well, at Clicky Bezel. I'll see you there. I came across this watch on OfferUp, and to be honest, I had no clue what it was. If any of you use OfferUp on your phone, you know exactly what I'm talking about. The thumbnails are tiny, and there isn't any title or description until you actually click into it. Luckily, the mere silhouette of the case and its almost Rolex blue Stella-like dial really caught my eye. However, school time. Who the heck is school time? And why does this thing look so dang awesome? My memory is pretty blurry, but from what I remember, the owner was a fellow watch enthusiast and explained that this watch was a vintage Seiko watch for kids. So I figured, just pick it up. Like all mechanical watches purchased from strangers over the internet, you always just cross your fingers the watch is in working order. Luckily for mine, the watch was handled extremely well, maintaining the original box and papers, and even includes the original strap as well. Now the strap didn't fit my wrist, go figure, it really was made just for kids, so I picked up another strap so I could wear it around and get a sense of this watch. Now the more I looked at this watch, the more it was giving me a sense of, dare I say, a Grand Seiko. Aside from the multifaceted Zaratsu polished edges of the 44GS Grand Seiko case, the silhouette of the case, the dial configuration with the stick hour markers, and the double width index at 12 o'clock, even the handset is all very reminiscent of the original Grand Seiko 44GS, which is probably why I found this particular watch attractive. If this isn't the most accurate depiction of a baby Grand Seiko, I don't know what is. According to ChatGPT's resident watch expert, the Seiko school time came in various sizes from 34mm all the way up to 40mm, but I highly doubt that. I've done a little bit more digging and couldn't find anything larger than the 44mm version like this one, that also has a lug width of 18mm. For many men, they'll probably shy off from this watch due to the small size. As many of you know, I'm a fan of these smaller sizes, but 34mm is my threshold. Vintage dress watches from this era tend to be smaller anyways, so I have no problem wearing this piece. However, because the watch is mostly all dial, It wears and reads really well, even on my 7¼ inch wrist diameter. Just like a dress watch, it is pleasantly thin, that goes well under a cuff, and it's a hand-wind watch, which can help maintain this thinness. Again, in this day and age, the thought of a child living with this kind of watch is really impressive to me. The crown operation is pretty positive, but it's hard to get my fingers on it sometimes because it's a little small. Position 0 hand winds the watch, which is really satisfying. Position 1 allows you to set the date, and position 2 sets the time, which doesn't hack the seconds hand. I'd say it's pretty standard operation. I'm not exactly sure what movement is inside of here, but it has to be something off the shelf from Seiko. If any of you have any idea what movement this is, feel free to let me know. The crystal is acrylic, and it did come pretty scuffed up when I picked it up, but after a good polywatch treatment, it looked brand new and really cleared up the haze to see that beautiful blue dial a bit better. Speaking of the dial, for a kid's watch, it's a really mature looking navy blue in darker settings, but in daylight, it takes on this amazing royal blue finish. I think the dynamic nature of this dial is partly due to its matte finish, which is something I always appreciate. This watch is probably one of the most unique pieces in my collection in terms of the origins of this watch, but really, all we need to know is that it was a watch made for kids. One of the best things about this watch has to be its looks. If I didn't tell you this was a kid's watch, you'd probably think it was originally intended as a men's dress watch. As I said before, it has the same silhouette of a Grand Seiko 44GS, even as far down to its dial layout, which I think this watch earns the proper title of Baby Grand Seiko. I can see this watch not appealing to a lot of people with its 34mm size. However, there are a lot of brands out there that are embracing this smaller case size, like Hajime Asaoka with his 34mm limited line of Corona watches. So I don't know, it could be a trend towards smaller watches in the near future, and if it does happen, well, you can bet these school time watches will be fetching for a premium on the secondary market. I don't know, what do you guys think? It's ranking time. Some would say the design is generic. Yes, I couldn't agree more. It's a simple time and date watch with traditional dress watch architecture you'd expect from a vintage watch of this era. But for the Seiko fans out there, you really start seeing the similarities to Grand Seiko in a literal shrunken down version of a 44GS. And the fact that this watch is such a simple watch design, it makes it super versatile to wear on a bunch of occasions. I was pretty lucky to have received this watch from a collector who not only picked up this watch in great condition, but also maintained it. However, this being an entry-level watch that was designed for children, there were some corners that had to be cut. Now, the case material appears to be stainless steel, but to be honest, it might be chrome plated. The hands and hour markers aren't finished to the finest degree, but knowing the original intent of this watch, I can really look past all that. But we have to grade this fairly, so. I think the origin story of this watch is pretty interesting, and I think we can all learn something from this school time. Children of the 70s were complete badasses. I mean, compared to the set it and forget it children's watches that are designed today, and can sure take a hell of a beating, the school time watch required care, patience, and a basic understanding of mechanics on how a watch works with its hand-winding movement. In a lot of ways, it's probably these kids that sparked their fascination with mechanical watches and grew up to foster this wonderful watch world we're living in today. So, thank you. Thank you very much. I picked up this watch for less than $50 at the time, but you can find these on eBay for around $70 to $100 for a pretty good example. I say if you're into this dressy aesthetic or just want to own a part of a lesser known model from Seiko, pick one up soon before collectors start catching on. Well, that about wraps up my thoughts on this kid's watch I absolutely love. What do you all think of this watch from Seiko? And with the sudden surge of modern watches designed for children these past couple years, are you picking one up? Let me know down in the comments below. Thank you so much for making it this far into my video. As always, if this is your first time joining me and you found this video at all interesting or helpful, please consider subscribing for more videos like this. And for those of you visiting again, welcome back. I'm Chris, this channel is Clicky Bezel, and we'll see you all on the next one.